Grace and peace to you from Jesus Christ, who lived his life in love for us and for all people. Amen. Well, when my brother and I were kids, we used to love to watch Disney movies. In fact, I'm pretty sure we had every single one of them on VHS. I remember it was a treat to crack open that case, slide the tape into the VCR, and then sit down on the couch with some popcorn or my mom's a cheesy salsa concoction with some nacho chips. And then the same movies were played again and again and then rewound again to be watched because we all had our favorites, like you do. My brothers were The Lion King and Toy Story. Mine were, or I should probably say are, thank you very much, Disney Plus. They were Pocahontas and The Beauty and the Beast. But we also love to watch the classics, so to speak, like Cinderella and, of course, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And our theme for today comes from that movie. In Snow White, there's an evil queen who repeats this refrain to a magic mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all? And every time she would hear the reply, "You are my queen," until one day, the magic mirror reports that the fairest one of all is now Snow White. Now is the time, I'm sure, friends, that you're all thinking, okay, Pastor Liz, where are you going with this? Well, friends, as always, the magic mirror reminds me of one of our readings for today from Ephesians. Ephesians is one of those books of our Bible that is written as a letter. Now, it may or may not have been written by Paul, but that's not the point. The point of this letter is focus on community. Focus on unity. The author of this letter asks the question, how are we to act toward one another in community? And what behaviors work against this unity? Because, friends, unity takes work. It is one thing to call for unity, but it is another to actually work for it. So as I read this section of Ephesians again and again this week, I began to ponder this question for myself. Do I live this? Do I live these rules for the new life, as my Bible calls this section of Ephesians? Now, if I'm honest, and it's hard to be honest here, I don't. When I look into the mirror, like the evil queen, I too am confronted with the truth. The truth that I don't always imitate God. And I am guilty of evil talk, anger, bitterness, and unkindness. I fail to live in love as Christ has loved me. And friends, I don't like to hear that. It's hard to hear that I am wrong or have done wrong. It's hard to be confronted with criticism or be corrected. What ends up happening is I try to tell myself a different story. I deny it or become defensive. I end up not being honest with myself. I end up telling myself lies. deceiving myself and deceiving others, just like the evil queen in Snow White. So friends, how about you? When you look into the mirror, what do you see? What do you hear? And then how do you react to that? Are you like me? You don't always like to hear the truth? You don't like to know the truth that you fall short and mess up and are guilty of some of those things listed in Ephesians. And yet, friends, this self-reflection is important and necessary, even if it's hard work to do. Because the only way we are going to improve ourselves, move forward, and more closely follow Jesus is through this reflection. Because remember, acknowledging where we fall short is always the first step. Friends, I bring this up because many of us have been confronted with truths we do not want to hear. We have all come face to face with the ways we have hurt others, whether purposefully or not. And all of us at one time or another, instead of facing the truth and working to correct ourselves, we deny it. We have all refused to see things the way they are. Instead of putting away falsehood, we lean into it. We end up lying to ourselves and to others. When the evil queen heard the truth, she didn't like what the magic mirror told her. She decided to deceive herself and then deceive Snow White, masking herself as an old woman with an apple. Yes, friends, this is a fairy tale, but there's some truth that we need to hear. When the mirror shows us where we mess up and fall short, how will we respond? Because when we don't tell ourselves the truth, we end up hurting ourselves and others, and the world becomes a more broken place. And yet, friends, that is not what God intended. And that is why Jesus came into the world as love incarnate. He lived the love of God, displayed in how he cared for those the world ignored, and how he spent time with those the world saw as sinful and outcasts, and how he fed the poor with bread and his love. And then how he gave of himself for all those people and for us, going to the cross. Jesus lived his love for every human being. And friends, we are called to be imitators of God, reflections of God on earth. We are called to reflect the grace and love of God that has been given to us, to others. We've all been created in God's image, imbued with God's divinity and God's love. That means a small piece of God lives in each of us. And we're called to reflect this image to the world. Who we are and whose we are is reflected in what we do and what we don't do. And our community and unity rely on our following of this call. Though the truth of the mirror is hard to hear when it tells us we've messed up, when it tells us we have sinned, the truth of the mirror also tells us this: we are created by the one who is love. We are loved. And though we fall short, God's love for us remains. That is also the truth of the mirror. So maybe we should ask another question. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is loved by the most loving of all? The answer, friends, we are. So thanks be to God. Amen.